What's up, my dudes? MX Simulator Setup Guide. So, really, with this video, I want to try to explain to you more than just what compression and rebound does. You know, it seems like a lot of people out there, whenever you go and watch different guide videos and tutorial videos on MX Simulator setups, you'll have someone sitting there going, hey, this is my setup. It's the best setup. You should use this setup. And that's about all you ever see out there. For whatever reason, these people completely fail to convey to you that there is levels and layers to the way that you work up a setup in MX Simulator. There is kind of stages you go through with your skill level, just like how in real life you're not going to be able to just hop on Ryan Villapoto's supercross bike and expect to ride it, and especially not ride it as good as he rides it. So, you know, it's the exact same comparison. You're not going to have the same suspension setup as a beginner as you would as a pro. So all I'm really going to be talking about in this video is just a general setup guide, not so much like, okay, this is what compression, rebound, da-da-da-da-da. I'm going to make separate videos on the suspension and gearing, and then make separate videos on, you know, the stability and this and that, and it's just going to take splitting it up in videos to even really explain it properly. But this one is just about, like, you know, kind of how people go about making setups, and they think what they think about setups, and they try to, you know, figure things out. That's what I'm really going to be talking about here in this video. And one of the biggest misconceptions with MX Simulator, especially beginners, is they think that it's all your setup. They think that you can just come over here and copy and paste someone else's setup and then you'll just be James Stewart in a day. I mean, that's actually how these people think, and it's just hilarious when you've actually played the game for a few years and you realize how completely not true that really is. Let me just give you some words of wisdom right here, okay? If it was that easy to become that good at this game, then everyone would be good at this game. You understand? If you could just come over here and copy and paste this quote-unquote perfect setup and become the best in the game instantly, then everyone would do that. But that's just not how it is. And I think a lot of people, they just try to come up with an excuse, but the fact of the matter is they just suck at the game, and so they try to say, oh, well, it's just his setup. He just has a good setup. Like, what the fuck do you think this is, dog? He's not on the Monster Energy Kawasaki team in real life with billions of dollars being put into the team. Like, what do you think's going on, man? That's not what it is, dude. We're all playing with the same game here. So it's not as setup dependent as you might expect or think or get the impression of at the beginning. It's just not even like that. And I think so many people, they get that in their head like it's this, well, let me just put these numbers in and then that's where my skill is going to come from. Whereas in reality, your skill comes from how much you actually play the game. Now, yes, your setup can definitely make you faster. It can definitely do a lot of things for you, but I just feel like the majority of people, they abuse the setup more than use it. You understand what I'm saying? They don't really even know what the heck they're doing with it. And it's the same way in real life. Like, if you're a novice rider in real life and you're over there trying to, like, twist screws with your setup on your bike, like, you're really not doing a whole lot. I mean, you're just not. Like, you almost have to be at a certain level before it even really matters to a certain extent. And there's a big thing, like I was telling you, how your certain skill levels get worked up with your setup in MX Simulator is because when you first get into MX Simulator, you have to almost train your mind into learning, like, the movements of the bike and learning the stability of the bike and learning everything about it. So once, like, you start off with more of what you would call like a stiff setup, where it's going to be harder to turn the bike. You're going to have to turn way harder to get it to turn. You're going to have to pull up way harder to get it to pull up. You're going to have to, you know, really, like, move a lot to get the bike to do what you want it to do. But once you've played the game for long enough, then you get the actual skill on the bike to where you can control it with the more loose style setups where you've actually got more movement with it. So like if you throw a beginner on a really loose setup, they're not even going to be able to ride it because they don't even have the skill and the seat time to be able to control the bike. That's why there's a workup with the actual suspension and everything to the game. So for instance, like your stability, a lot of you guys probably know this, but if you don't, you want to start off on like either 100 or 80 when you first get into the game, and that's going to help you actually hold the bike up a little bit, because you guys know how that shit is when you first start in the game and you just ride into the first quarter and it's like you're on complete icicles and you just fall down instantly. Well, your stability is what allows you to hold the bike up a little bit for you, but in turn, see, you can't turn the bike as sharp because it's holding the bike up for you. And that's how every aspect of the game is. That's how every aspect of the setup is. Like, just follow me here for a second, okay? Just really think about that. Like, the more handicapped you make something, the easier it's going to be as a beginner, but you're not going to be able to actually do the movements and everything you need to do to become super fast like a pro. You're going to eventually have to start, kind of weaning off of those handicap sort of things over time with playing the game so that therefore you can actually fully control the bike. But you have to have those handicap things or your mind muscle memory can never learn those different elements. I feel like so many people that they get way too much of a quote-unquote pro setup way too early, and they don't even learn the core basics of the game. They don't even realize what they actually want or need in the game. And I don't think there is a single person in this game that has the exact same setup as someone else. I don't think there's a single person in this game that does. I'm talking with your suspension, gearing, advanced stability, controller setup, button layout, all your brake settings and all your different dab settings. I don't think there is a single person in this game that has every single setting in the game 100% the same. I don't think there is. I mean, you may have a couple of brothers that, sit around on the same computer and play the exact same setup or whatever, but when it comes to like two completely different people, I don't think you have a single person that runs the exact same thing. So that just goes to show you how personal and sort of your own kind of preferences you're going to have for the game is going to be different than other people. Your setup is going to be different than other people. I mean, some people run, maybe the same suspension as someone else, but then they'll have a completely different controller layout, or they will run the same controller layout, but then they'll have a totally different advanced stability than someone else, or vice versa. Everyone's kind of got a little bit of a different formula that they use in this game, so I think that's a big aspect to it, but it's not just your setup, man. There's so much more that goes into it. It's your seat time. It's how much you've actually played the game. There's a lot of other aspects that don't even have anything to do with the setup itself whatsoever. I mean, there's the whole aspect of, I don't feel like a lot of people that play this game are not even really focused. They're not even really trying when they play the game. Like, they may be half awake and picking their nose while they're playing the game, and then they wonder why they suck at the game. It's like, dog, you got to at least be a gallon tea deep and awake and have had a shower and have stretched. And I mean, maybe that's going a little bit too far, but you understand what I'm saying. Like, you almost have to have this, take it a little more serious if you want to take it serious. I'm not saying you have to take it serious, but if you're really trying to become good at MX Simulator, there's a lot more to it than just putting in some numbers. Like, there's way more to it, dude. But anyways, so that's what I'm saying about your setup. It's all about comfortability. How comfortable is it to you? This guy over here may be wicked fast on this one setup, and then you try that setup and you think it completely sucks. I mean, it's just everyone has their own little way of doing things and the way they like to ride the bike. Some people like it to turn really sharp. Some people like to have a little bit more of a balance feeling to it. You know, some people, they like it pretty stiff on the bike. Some people like it hella loose where you're just like flying all over the place. You know, and that's where you really build your style in this game. That's how you do it, is it's with your setup and how you like to have things. So don't ever think that just because this person's fast with this setup that that's the best setup ever, because it's not necessarily the truth. And you're going to have a lot of quote-unquote suspension professional expert engineers in this game that try to tell you how to set your bike up, and you can go look at their finishes in pro races and it's laughable. I mean, you're going to have a lot of those people in this game that are experts at the shit they claim, and they try to like say, hey man, let me set your bike up for you. Hey man, this is what you should do with your setup. Hey man, this is how you get really good at the game. Hey man, you know, that's what you got, the hey man. I like to call them hey man. They're those kind of people that like reach out to you to try to tell you how to set your bike up even though you're smoking them in a race. Like, you got a lot of people out there like that, okay? And I just want you guys to be smart about who you trust in this game, okay? Be smart about who you're believing on, what they have going with their setup and what they're telling you to do in the game. You got to have a certain level of, you know, what's going on with the game regardless of what people are telling you. Don't just run completely off of what someone else is telling you, because there's no telling what they actually know about the game or whatever. But like, especially if you're like an amateur rider and you've finally got enough skill to like start to go pro, you're going to have so many people out there that are going to be saying, hey man, I can make your lap times twice as quick. Hey man, you know, I can really improve on a lot of different things. Let me set that bike up for you, dude. And all this kind of crap, you know, and you can get kind of caught into that rabbit hole of, now you're totally trusting what someone else is telling you, and it just gets completely blown out of proportion. It really does. So you got to be careful, because there's a lot of people out there like that. They seem like they're just trying to help you, and in reality, they're like trying to tell you what you need, when in reality, you should be able to do it yourself. You understand what I'm saying? You should be able to set your bike up the way you think you want it. And that's the only real way to do it. And I think a lot of it comes from what you start on. See, that's what's funny about it, is it's not even so much about what kind of setup you have. It's how used you are to that setup. How much time you've actually spent with that setup. That's what's hilarious about it. You know, you can have some setup over here that's the best setup ever, and if you've only played with it for a day, you're gonna suck with it. Like, and then you could have a setup over here that some people don't even consider is very good, but if you played with it every single day for a year straight, you're gonna be smoking some kids with it. It's way more about how much you played with the setup than what the setup actually is, which is insane, but it's the 100% truth, because a lot of people, they get caught up in that changing their setup way too much. They get that sort of knob twisting syndrome going on, and they're twisting too much shit, they're changing it too much, and then your mind muscle memory can't even get used to what you're riding with, and therefore you can never learn it. So that's another aspect. You've got to, don't be afraid to change your setup, because you definitely need to do that over time. But at the same time, you need to be careful, like especially whenever you are, I would never change a setup like the day of a pro race or something like, you at least need to have a few days on whatever change you've made to your setup before you really go in there and try to race with it or whatever. You know, you really need to get used to it a little bit. But there is such a complete mindfuckery element to setups in this game, and it's kind of funny because you realize how your mind can actually play tricks on you. So your mind can play tricks in the sense of, like, just because you change something, your mind automatically thinks, oh, well, this can be better, because if you were to have the thought of changing something, it's probably because you thought the setup wasn't very good beforehand. So regardless of what you change, your mind has already got this preconceived notion that it's going to be a little better, and it can actually trick you into thinking, some setup is better than what it actually is, and then you go back to what you had before and realize that was actually better the whole time, and you're like, what the hell just happened? So you got to be careful, because there is definitely some mind tricks that goes on with especially if you're playing this game a lot and like you're thinking, okay, this is a little bit better, but you don't realize it's actually 100 times worse in this other part of the track, and like, you know, little stuff like that. But that's all that I just told you right there, that's the kind of shit people just don't explain to you. They just don't tell you. Like, for whatever reason, people just, you know, it's like they don't even care to explain that to somebody. And that's what takes years and years of experience to learn that kind of stuff. It truly does. I mean, you just wouldn't even realize it unless you had went through those different experiences in the game. So either way, I appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.